Welcome, everybody, to the Student Ministry Podcast. My name is Steve Cullum, and I'm your host, and here we are at episode 36, which does mark the end of 3 years of the Student Ministry Podcast. I am so grateful that you have joined me. I'm so grateful for all of you that have been with us for this entire 3-year journey. I hope to be doing this for many, many more years, and we can add to this podcast, and it keeps growing and everything over the years. But before we jump into anything else, I just want to take just a moment to thank you for being a regular listener, for sharing this with others, and for just leaving some great comments and stuff. I've been reading through some of the comments we've got on iTunes and other platforms for podcasts, and I'm just so grateful. This is episode 36, which means that I have talked to 36, more than that, because our last episode was our NYWC episode where I talked to 11 different youth workers. So over the last 3 years, I've had some awesome conversations. If this is like your first time listening to the Student Ministry Podcast, I want to urge you, go back and listen to some of those other episodes and just glean some amazing wisdom and all that stuff from some great youth workers. There's some great conversations, and I'm so grateful that I get to do this every month. And like I said, hopefully, if God blesses and opens the doors and things like that, maybe we can do more over time. But right now, it's been great to do this every month for the last 3 years. And today is something special for me. It's a shorter podcast because he didn't have much time to give, but it's a special podcast for me because I get to talk to my youth minister, Tim Uhls, who was there for me when I was in high school and really helped me see the path that God had for me. And it's such an honor to talk to him today. He's been at his church, my home church, for 30 years. He just passed the 30-year mark. So while this podcast just is passing the 3-year mark as we speak, he has passed the 30-year mark at his church. Same church for 30 years now, and there's so many different stats out there about how long youth workers stay at different churches. Depending on what the stats you look at. Some of them say 12 months, some say 18 months, some of them say maybe 2 years now. Whatever the stats are, 30 years is close to unspeakable. And I'm so glad that I was able to get him on today just to gain some wisdom from him. I've gained so much over the years. He was, like I said, he was the one that kind of pointed me in the direction of ministry. He was the one that gave me opportunities as a teenager to experience what it meant to lean in and lead children, to lead kids, teenagers, and I was able to see what God had in store for me because of Tim. And so I'm so grateful for you to hear a little bit about his story today. And before we jump into that, I do want to thank our sponsors. Apart from you guys, the listeners and the awesome youth workers that we get to talk to, our sponsors are awesome. And I just want to take a moment just to thank them and tell you about them. So most of you know, they've been with us for almost the entirety of this entire podcast, but WorkCamp NE. Guys, if you're looking for a service-based camp for your students, I want you to check out WorkCampne.com. Honestly, like my last ministry when we were in New England, it was such an awesome thing to partner with WorkCamp every summer. And we had our own like private trips with them as well, which is also an opportunity for you guys. So if you are looking for something, I think they do something in spring break-ish, like depending on, when your break is. So maybe that doesn't line up. But then they also do several trips in the summer, and they're going to be both in New England and Illinois. So maybe you thought, in the Northeast is such a long trip for us, we can't make that happen. But hey, Illinois is not too far. I want you to check out WorkCampNE.com and contact them. Tell them that we sent you, the Student Ministry Podcast sent you. That's awesome for them to hear. Hey, this sponsorship is actually reaching people. Tell them we sent you and ask them about the best way to get involved with them and partner with them. Your students are going to love it. It's an awesome opportunity, mixing service just with the camp atmosphere, with worship and diving deeper into Scripture and relationships being built with other youth ministries, and it's just a great opportunity. So check them out. And we also want to make sure we thank our sponsor of the National Network of Youth Ministries. Man, if you are not connected with other youth workers in your area, if you've been trying to do this alone, it's time to stop. I'm serious. Like I'm a little serious right now because it is time to stop. We can't do this alone. We're not made to do this alone. You need to be connecting with other youth workers in your area. And the National Network of Youth Ministries is an amazing way to do that. That's their entire goal. Their whole slogan is that we're better together, and they want to connect youth workers together. So if you've been, like I said, trying to do this alone, maybe you have one other person or something like that you've been connecting with, make sure you check out youthworkers.net. It's their website, and their entire website is built around connecting youth workers. So you can look for other youth workers that are signed up, other networks that are in your area, and be able to find their contact information and there's resources on there. It's just amazing. They just redid the website as well, and so there's a lot of other stuff. There's a blog on there. It's really cool, and so make sure you do check them out. But here's the deal: if you can't find it, sometimes there's not a network that exists on the website already. Maybe that's God saying it's time for you to start one. And there are resources and other opportunities for you to actually create your network. And National Network will actually get in touch with you and provide you with a lot of insight and information and all that stuff and encouragement to help you create your network. So like I said, if you are doing this alone, it's time to stop. Check out youthworkers.net for the National Network of Youth Ministries and get connected with other youth workers in your area. Well, again, thanks to the National Network of Youth Ministries, but also WorkCamp NE for your sponsorship of this episode. And now it's time to get into this interview with my youth minister and now the children's minister of First Christian Church in West Frankfort, Illinois, Tim Uhls. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Hey, Steve, good to talk to you.
Yeah. So for those that are listeners to the podcast that have no idea who you are, go ahead and let's start off with just telling us a little bit about your story, how you got into ministry a little bit. I know a lot about it because I've been around for a good portion of those years, and you were my youth minister. So I am sure that I could probably tell a good portion of the story, but for those of you that have no idea who Tim Uhls is, tell us a little bit about your story.
All right. Well, like I said, my name is Tim Uhls. I am 53 years old. I'm an old man. I got out of high school, went to college, got a degree in elementary education. I was teaching in the school systems for a couple of years. At that point, the youth minister at our church left, and the preacher and the elders came to me and asked me if I would be interested in being the new youth minister at our church. And honestly, I had not thought about it until then because I always wanted to be a teacher. But I saw God's hand working very clearly through that whole ordeal. And I thought, well, this must be the direction God wants me to go. So I took the job, and they sent me to St. Louis Christian College for a couple of years to get my Christian ed degree, all the while working at the church. And January 1st, just a few days ago, started my 30th year there at the church working with the kids.
30 years in ministry. That's crazy. That's almost as old as I am, Tim.
You are getting old, Steve. You're an old man.
I know. I was just talking to Matt the other day, and he said I did something on my Instagram story and something about feeling old, and he told me that I was getting old. I was like, Matt, you're only 7 years older than me. You can't tell me that.
But you still look good for your age.
Oh, well,
Steve.
thank you. You too, Tim. You too. So in ministry for quite a while, I know that things have changed a little bit over the years, and you're currently mostly in charge of the children's ministry at the church. So what's that look like, and a little bit of let's walk back through the years a little bit. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but walk through the years a little bit and tell us what changed over time and kind of how you have evolved into what you're doing nowadays. So you started in youth ministry. What were you? You were over children's ministry at the time, right? You were always over children's and youth.
I basically was in charge of K through 12, and all ages. Plus, of course, at a church of our size in a small town, I was also at the time in charge of the music, doing Christmas plays and Easter dramas, and driving our senior saints on their trips, and just whatever needed done. Basically, I would do. So
yeah.
It's been more fine-tuned as the years have gone on, to where now I'm mainly working with children. I still have a little bit with the teens and some other areas as well, but it's mainly the children. And a lot of the change has to do with the West Frankfort, where I'm at. The town has changed quite a bit, and a few years ago, we started a summer lunch program for kids, and they would come to our church during the summer from 11:30 to 1, and Monday through Friday, 10 weeks during the summer. And we would feed them lunch, give them a devotion, and just get to know them. And that point, our Wednesday night youth really began growing and kind of took on a different feel. We got a lot more children from the community, not just from our church, to start coming on Wednesday nights. And when that happened, we just kind of grew quite a bit. Like sometimes we have over 100 children on Wednesdays, as well as 40, 50 teens. So that kind of certainly blossomed those few years ago. So that was one major change, and what caused kind of the change in my line of work.
Yeah. And so are you now, this is actually a question because I don't actually know this answer. Are you like, with the partnership with the current youth minister there and everything, are you providing oversight to him, or are you guys more peers in ministry, or how does that work?
Yeah, we are more peers. Sometimes he asks me for advice, and sometimes I ask him for advice. He's a young man in his 20s, and I'm a young-ish man in my 50s. So, right. But he helps me out on some of the things that younger kids know about. All this technology you kids do, and he comes to me for advice on other things in ministry. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. We kind of help each other out.
Yeah.
In our areas.
Right. So that's really cool, because I know, we went to the Orange Conference a few years ago, and one of the big things is trying to take the silos out of ministry. And, there's definitely times where we need to focus on our areas and stuff, but a lot of times there's a really cool stuff that can happen when we start crossing over a little bit and become partners within the ministry. And that seems like kind of what you guys have there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's really cool.
Sir.
So from week to week, kind of what does life look like in the ministry there that you run now? Like, what are you kind of responsible for, and how does all that run, like your programs and stuff?
Of course, I'm like I said, our Wednesday night programming, where I have to make sure we have the transportation, the food. We do feed them, so the food and the cooks and all of our teachers lined up and all the curriculum. And we have 8 different groups in our children's program. We do each grade level, starting at pre-K. So just make sure all the workers are there and they have everything they need, and just getting that organized for our Wednesday nights. And then, of course, Sunday mornings, we do children's church for both services, and we have Sunday school in the middle, and just help the teachers, making sure they have all their curriculum and whatever they need for their class as well. And our nurseries as well, make sure they're stocked and equipped and have all the volunteers set.
Cool. Well, what do you provide direct, leadership over any of those programs or any of those classes or anything, or are those all volunteer driven now?
On Wednesday nights, we have all volunteers teaching the classes, and I float around for instance, one week, one group may be going to, the nursing home Christmas caroling. So I take them, go with them, or one week, one group may go to the grocery store shopping for the food pantry. So I go with them and take them. So I keep myself free on Wednesday nights so I can be with specific groups that are doing special things that particular Wednesday. Now on Sunday mornings for our children's church, I am the one that teaches that each week and in charge of that. And I have people who assist me in that, but I do teach that each week.
Okay, cool. So one of the big things I'm assuming that's helped you in your ministry for the long haul is that you're not doing every little thing in the church. Like you've, looking at your ministry, you've done an excellent job, I think, of empowering other volunteers, because if it was up to you, I'm guessing you couldn't be able to do all that the church does if it was only you doing it. Right.
There for a while, years ago, I felt like I was just spinning plates, keeping plates spinning because there was so much. But I'm very blessed to have some wonderful volunteers in our children's ministry who are faithful and loyal and just excellent at what they do. And some of them have been teaching alongside with me for over 20 years. There's a couple that's been over 20 years. So I just have a wonderful, wonderful set of volunteers. And I know not every church is blessed to have that, but boy, we sure do. I'm so grateful and so thankful for our volunteers.
Yeah. That's really cool. One of your kindergarten volunteers is a little shady, I've heard, but I'm not sure.
Nah, don't talk about your mother that way. She's one of the best.
She is.
Helps me in camp and Bible school and Wednesday nights.
Yeah. Hey, so I know you don't have much time left, so I want to wrap up real quick and just ask you, what's a couple tips that you can offer to other youth workers that are out there? You've got 30 years of ministry experience under your belt, all the same church, which is crazy because a lot of people are hopping around all the time.
Right.
What are a couple tips that you could offer to other youth workers?
Well, it certainly is unique that I am at my home church and I have stayed there for 30 years. I know that's kind of strange in the ministry. For one thing, it is my church and I love it. So I love the people there. I've known the people there all of my life. And, my family goes there. So that's a big plus. And I know it doesn't work for everyone, but has worked out well for me to work at my home church. And I'm just knowing the people and make sure you get to know the people and are connected in their lives and are there for them and to support them and encourage them. So I'd say just make sure you're connected with your people and build relationships.
Yeah, I know that's probably that for some people it is easier if you're at your home church. Sometimes it's easier to go somewhere else. How was that for you? I know we've talked about this before, but kind of entering into ministry, especially at your home church, was it hard to build those relationships on a different level that all of a sudden hey, you're leading now instead of just being with the kid?
It was kind of funny because I was kind of in the youth group, then I became the leader of the youth group. And most of my friends in the youth group, they were totally fine with it. And it actually was kind of cute. Some of the older ladies at church, when I first started, being the youth minister, they would come up to me and say, "Well, I changed your diaper when you were in the nursery." Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Right. How do I react to that?
But for the most part, everybody was very supportive, and my family, my parents went there. My grandparents went there with all my aunts and uncles. So we have a bit of family history in the church. So for the most part, it was fine.
Cool. Yeah. And probably just to kind of helped, start those relationships, and you already had something to build off of, I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yes, certainly. Most certainly.
Right. I'm guessing.
And another thing that helped was I was close with my youth minister. And I was, out of high school into college when he came, and, he would have me help him on different things. So I got into the ministry doing, working at camp and Bible school and going on mission trips. So by the time he left, I kind of already knew the ropes on most of it and knew how it had worked and such. So, that was made for an easier transition too, because I was so close to the youth minister at the time, and just kind of kept things going from what he did. And then over time, I would kind of start my own things.
Cool. Well, Tim, I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to want to hear more of your story or contact you and say, hey, you talked about this on the podcast. Like, can I hear more of that? What's the best place for people to find you online if they want to talk to you more? Is Facebook the best place?
On Facebook, look me up, or you can email me, timuhls3@gmail.com.
I'm sure people will want to do that. I mean, it's rare for people to have 30 years at the same church, so I'm sure people are going to want some tips on how to get to that point. Well, thanks, Tim. I know we didn't have a whole lot of time to talk today, so maybe I'll have you back on sometime, and we can kind of revisit and dive a little deeper into that.
We can do a sequel.
We could do a sequel, Tim Uhls Part 2.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
That's right.
Thanks so much, Tim, and man, God bless your ministry.
God bless you, Steve. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with my youth minister, Tim Uhls. Tim has been, like I said, at the same church for so long, and there's so much wisdom there that there's no way we could have encapsulated that all in one episode. So I will definitely try to have him back on at some time in the future so we can dive a little further into some of the stuff that he talked about and kind of see if we can get some more tips out of him. But make sure you do contact him. Tim is a wealth of information, and make sure you do contact him on Facebook, or you can definitely email him. We'll have all that contact information in our show notes so you can connect with Tim after you get and listen to this. We do want to thank our sponsors really quick again. WorkCamp NE, their website is workcampne.com, and you can also check out youthworkers.net for the National Network of Youth Ministries. Both of them are been longtime sponsors, and we're so grateful for what they do to make this podcast happen. And we're so grateful for you as well, our listeners. Make sure you do subscribe on your favorite podcast app of choice. There's a lot of them out there, and we are on pretty much all of them. So make sure you do subscribe, and also share this with other youth workers that you know that need to hear other good stories about what's going on in the world of youth ministries. I don't know about you, but it's so encouraging for me to hear what God is doing around the world. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast. And it's been great to do it for 3 years so far. And I hope God continues to bless. And we're able to do for many, many, many more years, because there's some amazing stories out there that need to be heard and need to be celebrated. And maybe you know one of those stories. Make sure you do contact me and let me know. Say, hey, I've got this youth worker that you need to interview them. I would love to have him or her on the podcast at some point. So make sure you contact me. You can contact me on Twitter at Steve Cullum. That's SteveCullum. And you can also just follow the Student Ministry Podcast Twitter as well. That's STUMINPOD, STUMINPOD, and that'd be great. And like we said, if you like what you hear, make sure you do subscribe, make sure you do share it with others, and make sure you leave a positive comment on that podcast app of choice. That'd be awesome. Kind of helps us rise to the top and helps other youth workers find these amazing stories. So thanks once again for tuning in. 3 years, man, it's been great. Looking forward to the next 3+ years ahead of us. Until the next episode, may God bless your ministry.